myself out.
I am afraid of...
I'm terrified and paralyzed by...
I am deathly afraid of...
Welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast with your host, me, Ryan Perrio. Hello and welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Perrio. This week, we continue my live interviews from the Hops and Arts Festival at Pitfalls Brewery. This week, it's Jen Rainey. Jen Rainey is a lighting and audio technician for live shows and concerts. She also collects gems and quartz and other precious minerals. She also is organizing a travel where you actually go and actually collect these gems and do these scenic travels yourselves along with them. Like they mine for turquoise in New Mexico, quartz in Arkansas. It's really fascinating, and we'll have all the links here in the show notes. Jen has an amazing fear of being locked into a 9-to-5 job. Something a lot of us creatives probably dread on some level. Some of us actually enjoy it. I don't mind having a day job. I kind of like the ability to separate my mind and think about something other than comedy. But let's get into that interview right now with Jen Rainey. All right, guys, we're here with my next guest, artist Jen Rainey.
Yes, that's correct.
Jen, how are you doing today?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. This is my second day of doing this. I'm learning on the fly. Thanks again to Oscar Nash and his perfect audio setup to get this going.
Awesome.
So you're outside. You're selling crystals and T-shirts and...
We are. We've got crystals. We can actually wire wrap any of our any of our crystals in general for you, and make necklaces, earrings, bracelets. But we also mine all of our own quartz crystals and phantom crystals as well.
How do you mine quartz?
So we actually go out to Mount Ida, Arkansas, and we chip at a vein and dig at the vein, and we're going to start taking some people out later this year mining as well. So if anybody's interested, they can get in touch with us.
That's a cool little vacation kind of thing to do, just to go out and... Because they have diamond mines out there, too, I believe.
They do. So the diamond mines are about an hour south of there. They're in Murfreesboro, Arkansas. We go to Mount Ida, Arkansas. It's kind of like... If you go to Murfreesboro to dig for diamonds, you might find a couple of things. It's really muddy. It was fun to say we went, but the quartz mines are super awesome because it's like Christmas morning. You find all kinds of quartz mines.
That's really cool.
And
So how long does it take to actually...
So the last time we went out there, it was about 8 to 10 hours. Okay. And we ended up getting about 8 to 10 big buckets of quartz crystals and phantom crystals out of there. And we also found like a 150-pound quartz crystal rock that we have in our shop in Canton, Texas.
Wow. So are you breaking pieces off, or is that just a whole...
Some of them we find the little pieces that are already broken off, kind of like in the ground and the sand and stuff. And then other ones we find like great big boulders and stuff of them. And so we'll climb on the backs of the mountains and like actually chip at the rocks and the crystals. And
man, it sounds like it's like fun labor. Like it's almost...
It is exactly.
Like de-stressor, you can tap a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
So what is the benefits of quartz? Is it just artistic, or is there actually...
So there's metaphysical benefits to like all of the different crystals and rocks that we sell. It just depends on which ones. The quartz crystals are a great overall crystal to have, especially to kind of ward off negativity, stress, that kind of thing, which, we can all benefit from these days.
Yes. During a pandemic, there's not enough quartz in Mount Ida, Arkansas.
That's right. Exactly.
There's not enough. So how did you get into like the metaphysical, like crystal?
So that was actually my other half. He's actually out at our booth right now manning it, Roy Pond. And he actually got in, he's been into that kind of thing for years. Like his family was, he's originally from Boston, very metaphysical up there, and he always loved to mine. And so, my thing was always to travel and to make sure I didn't work a 9 to 5.
Okay. Wanderlust.
Exactly. So he kind of got me into it, and he was like, "Well, this is something fun to do." And we went. Our first one, I think it was to the gold mines out in Colorado about 3 or 4 years ago, and we just kind of started getting into it. And then whenever the pandemic hit, we were looking for something to do to kind of get out, but kind of social, Yeah. And so we just started mining, and so kind of went off from there.
It's really cool. And I like the idea of bringing people, like maybe to take people and expertly teach them,
Yes.
okay, this is how you mine for quartz.
Yes.
Let me show you, this is what you're looking for. This is what you're trying to do.
Exactly. That's our big plan. He just had surgery, so we're waiting for him to heal up. But towards the end of middle to the end of summer, into the fall, we're planning on taking some people out there. We've even got a place for everybody to stay as well. We're actually selling some of our crystals out at the Ouachita River Haven out there.
Okay.
It's an outdoor resort type of place, and they've got kayaking and stuff. So we're working with them as well, and so it's kind of just become a big community type of thing.
Yeah, that's what you want to have. Like, and when that kind of thing going on, just making sure I'm recording.
Exactly. No, totally understand.
So you also did music. Like you were, like before this, you did music venues before the pandemic.
Yes. So he and I both met on stage almost 10 years ago at the Eisman Center over in Richardson. Okay. He's been in the industry since he was 16. I've been in the industry since I was 20. We've done everything from booking. He's played music, but I never really played. But I booked and managed, and then I was a stagehand and technician. So whenever, and so we did corporate theater and concerts. And whenever the pandemic hit, it wiped out. We were the first industry to lose our jobs, the last industry to get back. So we took our side business, which was this, and built it into our main thing. And so this is our main hustle. This is how we feed ourselves.
See, I'm thinking of you guys as like two roadies, and like both of you are just undoing chords, and then just backed into each other and turned around, and it was like magic. Like you had this magic moment of like.
It pretty much was, actually, yeah. There's 14 years between us, and we met actually on stage at the Eisman Center, and it was during an Audi show, or Audi, however you pronounce the car. But yeah, we pretty much he was actually technically our crew lead, so I ended up with the boss. But
who's the boss now?
I like to think I am, but I let him slide by with that a few times here and there,
I think every woman nodded with approval of the same. Yeah. That's how we do things. Yeah, you totally are in control. Yeah.
Exactly.
You sure you're going to wear that shirt? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to let them think they are once in a while. That's,
Good boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's amazing. And so I love your fear. You definitely have chosen industries that take away from that fear of working a 9 to 5, which is, I would say, 99% of the people here running booths have the same like preconceived like notion or aversion to that. So how did you come across this fear of working 9 to 5?
So that's an interesting story. I actually grew up. I didn't grow up in Texas. I grew up in southeast Kansas, little town of 3,000 people. And where I grew up and my family and stuff, it was either teacher, farmer, factory worker kind of thing. And so I was kind of the black sheep of the family, if you would, if you will. And I decided, I saw my dad working, 9 to 5 and all the stress that it put on him and stuff, and working for corporate. And I decided a long time ago, if I'm going to make a living doing something, I want to be able to do what I love. And I love to travel. That's my biggest passion. That's my driving force. Even with our business, and, our motto is we travel the country to make, mine, and find the treasures we bring to you. And so it was really trying to figure out different ways to work gig-type jobs rather than a full-time job. And ended up graduating with a degree in theater. And so it was just kind of fell into place, I guess.
Yeah, you're not. I wouldn't call you the black sheep. I'd say free spirit of the family.
Yes, that's exactly how my cousin described me to her husband when I met him.
If you were a character on Friends, you were definitely Phoebe. Like you were.
Yes, yes, exactly.
But that's awesome. I mean, and that's how some people are inspired. I mean, you see the effects of your dad coming home after a full work shift, not doing anything except sitting on the couch. He definitely doesn't sound like he's a wanderlust at all.
He actually was, but he was responsible, in the fact that he had 2 kids and I don't know. It was kind of an old school way. I was brought up very old school.
Yeah.
So I actually feel like I have taken some of his desires and run with them as well. Some of the things he wasn't able to do because he provided so much for us, I've been able to do myself.
That's awesome.
So,
and I'm sure he's super proud. Like,
I think so.
and I tell people, like, when we do comedy and stuff, because some of this stuff, like creative arts, it's hard to quantify as a parent if you just do the 9 to 5. Like, it's hard for a person that's worked in a factory to know, okay, there's a set progression in corporate life. There is, you get the job, you get promoted at the job,
right.
You retire from the job. So you can kind of, when you're creative like this, it's hard to quantify, like, oh, I got this opportunity. Well, what does that pay? Well, it's not really about the pay. It's just, this is a real prestigious...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even my brother for years, he was like, well, what are you making doing that? Are you, because I'd pick up like just random volunteer stuff just to get experience at things. And he's like, what are you making doing that? I'm like, I'm not making anything. I'm making the experience. And
Yeah.
It's always been a growing factor, for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I totally relate to that, because I tell people, like, in comedy, it's hard for your parents to understand a free guest spot at a prestigious comedy club.
Yes.
Because all they want to see, the monetary success, that's all they recognize.
Yep.
And so it's hard for them. They want to be proud of you, but they just don't know the right things to look for.
Exactly.
To say, oh, you're doing good at that. Because all they see is you're giving you're spending all your time on this and not getting any kind of...
Yes. It's like a new concept. Especially for where I come from, it's very old school there. So yeah, it's a new concept that I always wanted to move to Dallas. I always looked forward to coming here and building something like what we have.
So how do you like living in Dallas compared to...
I live in Terrell now, to be honest with you. I like being on the outskirts because then it's a little more mellow, but at the same time, I love being in Dallas because then there's stuff to do. So it's great because where we live, we're halfway between Dallas and halfway between Tyler. So for what we do as far as events and stuff and for setting up as a vendor, we can go pretty much anywhere and be, about an hour away from everything. So
That's good. And it's far enough away that you're not trapped in it.
Exactly. We get the best of both worlds.
So where is since you're a wanderlust, what was your favorite travel destination?
Ooh, my favorite travel destination. Probably sea kayaking off the coast of California a couple years ago. We went to I forget the name of it now. But yeah, we went. It was about an hour and a half off the coast of California, and we went sea kayaking. We actually did 7 states, 10 national parks, and 2 countries in 17 days. We even went up to Canada, which was awesome.
Yeah, Vancouver is one of my all-time faves, so I've been there pre-passport. Like, this is back in the 80s, but...
Right. Yep.
But we drove from basically Idaho up in Pacific Northwest.
And I even have family in Idaho, too.
Okay.
Yeah, my family's all over the place. But yeah, we did Victoria Island.
Okay.
So not too far from Vancouver, I believe.
Yeah. My favorite was Oregon. Like, I loved Oregon Falls and all the waterfalls and everything.
We loved Oregon, and I think it's called it's Highway 1 or 101, that runs along the coast. Yep, that was our favorite too.
So what's sea kayaking like? Like, is that, because that seems kind of treacherous.
It was a little bit. It was a little nervous. You can actually go on our website. I need to update the website, but it's simplisticsensationstravel.com, and we actually have video footage on there of our sea kayaking trip.
Okay.
And it was really cool. It was a lot different. We had gone kayaking on like rivers and lakes and stuff. That's a lot more mellow compared to the ocean, especially out in the middle of the ocean. But we went through sea caves, and that was really cool. But there's definitely a lot of waves. It was a little nerve-wracking, but then you start to get used to it. It's a very freeing feeling in general.
So was it a one-person kayak each, or is it?
It was actually a 2-person kayak.
Okay.
And we even, our friends who are also in the entertainment industry here in Dallas, they actually flew out to LA and met us up there. And so we got to go kayaking with them as well.
Well, that's awesome.
Uh-huh.
So, and that's why I was like saying with the sea, I was like, it can kind of be nice, but man, if it's a windy day, that is
Yes.
a lot of, It's definitely, it feels like you were taking a lot of 2 paddles forward, 3 paddles back with each wave that came and pushed you back. Like, am I making progress or am I going backwards?
So they only let you go out on certain days, actually. Like, if it's too windy, I don't know the exact ratio or anything, but if it's too windy, they'll cancel the trip. But we lucked out. It was a perfect day for it. And actually, I just remember it was Channel Islands National Park.
Okay.
We're big national park advocates. So.
Awesome. So, yeah, have you been down to Terlingua?
To Terlingua?
Yeah.
I have not. What is in Terlingua?
Terlingua is Big Bend. It's down.
Oh, yes. I want to. I've never, as many national parks as I've been to, I've never been to any of them in Texas. I want to.
Yeah.
But it's like so far out of the way that like I really want to do that. I was supposed to go to the Guadalupe Mountains, I think it was a couple years ago on a solo hiking trip. I did Carlsbad and I did White Sands. And on my way through the mountains out near White Sands, I accidentally hit an elk in my Fiat 500X.
Okay.
And so I still ended up doing Carlsbad on the way back, but I didn't end up going to Guadalupe because it was just out of the way. And I was very limited on lights because of, the elk incident. So there's always a story.
Fiat, that's definitely not. Probably the elk was okay. Like, I feel like the elk just kind of brushed it off.
I think it did. It kind of ran off in the distance. So hopefully.
that was my intention. Yeah, he probably is just like later, bitch. Like,
I think it was probably better than my car was.
Yeah. But yeah, the Terlingua, it's down by the hill country and it's clear. Like, they have a couple of air bubbles. Like, they have like a tent that's like a air bubble, like a moon bounce almost, where it's open to air.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, just check out Base Camp Terlingua. It's one of my vacation things I want to do. They have like teepees. They also have but it's just
like a yurt or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they have air bubbles too, where you just go in. It's like a moon bounce.
That is so cool.
Where you just look up and it's like clear open top, so you can look at the night sky.
That is awesome. We've actually stayed in a yurt that was kind of similar to that in Madrid, New Mexico. That's where we get our turquoise that we sell. We actually have a friend out there, and we stay in like casitas and yurts on the top of the mountains. And like last time we were out there, we stayed in a little school bus. And
oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's like one of those like night sky kind of areas where you can just see a million stars, and it's just so awesome.
So say you have, like, we'll say your brother or you have kids that eventually with your significant other, how would you, if they're afraid to do a 9 to 5, how would you guide them to be successful as you have been?
So that is actually an excellent question because I'm an aunt and I'm also a stepmother.
Okay.
So I've never planned on having my own kids. I always say I had my kids when they were teenagers. But my stepdaughter, she's actually wanting to get into the whole thing, and she's actually been working with our business and doing some of the logos and stuff for our business. And I just tell her, I'm like, make sure that you figure out a set amount that you need to live on and work toward hitting that goal. And then, anything after that is just fluff. Anything after that's just extra. So.
Yeah, and that's a good plan, because a lot of people jump into this and they don't have that plan, and that's where they fall short. That's
where I think, I probably am blessed as far as being raised a little more old school, a little more traditional, if you will, in the fact that, like, I was always told, you need to make sure that you have a backup plan.
Yes.
So I always have a plan B, C, and D is what I always say. But yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about simplistic travel, since you were talking about that. Like, what is...
So simplistic sensation. So I actually started it because I became a minimalist. Okay. I mostly only shop for the business. But our whole idea is our big motto, I guess, if you will, is we travel the country to make, mine, and find the treasures we bring to you. So our big thing is we work with other local artists, other small artists, artists across the country. Our turquoise, most of it comes from the Santo Domingo Pueblo in New Mexico. It's handcrafted by natives, and that's like their main trade, is to make the turquoise. We have a friend that lives in Madrid, New Mexico. She mines some of her own mines, and she makes her own stuff, and then our sister lives on the reservation, and that's how we get some of the turquoise from there. The crystals, we go and we mine ourselves, or we go and work with other small rock shops in the Mount Ida, Arkansas area. We have soaps as well, all natural soaps. And they actually come from a small artist and small business in East Texas, out in Quitman, Texas. And so we can tell you the backstory behind pretty much every piece.
So are you planning on doing vacations not just from Mount Ida, but maybe from Madrid, New Mexico, and stuff like that to maybe?
Yeah, we love to travel. We do a ton of traveling. We actually started as a travel blog about 2-3 years ago. And really, at this point, the only time we travel is for the business, but we travel all the time. So my thing is that as long as I can write it off on the taxes, then we're good to go.
Well, I thank you for doing this. Where can people find you on social media?
So we are all over Facebook, Simplistic Sensations. Just look us up. You can also hit us up outside if you're here at the Hops and Arts event here at Petacolas. Come see us. And then we are also on simplisticsensationstravel.com, although I do need to update that, so I'll be updating that this week. So
well, thank you again, Jen.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. One more time for Jen, ladies and gentlemen. Check out Simplistic Sensations outside in the booth. So that was Jen. Man, what an awesome life, and way to do it responsibly by keeping a backup plan. Jen's an amazing creative. Check out her Simplistic Sensations Travel and Art, where she has jewelry, gems, all other kinds of things, as well as possibly vacationing, where you can actually go and actually mine your own quartz or turquoise or the harbor, or just an amazing wanderlust, and to find someone to partner with that is just as wanderlust, and such a serendipitous meeting that both of them worked on the lighting and on a show together, and they just hit it off and, just now enjoy life together. I really relate to that fear of just being caught in a rut and just doing the same 9 to 5, and to have somebody, tell them about that, but also helping them. That's just, just providing some kind of guidance. Check out simplisticsensationstravel.com, as well as the Facebook group, for more information on Jen and her traveling. As for me, next week I will be at Hyenas in Dallas with John Caparulo and Gareth Reynolds on Thursday. Also, I'll be headlining the Comedy Arena the first weekend in September. Check that out as well at thecomedyarena.com for tickets to that. And then I'll be featuring with Liz Meal in September at Hyenas Fort Worth, as well as doing a few 325 shows in between. Wichita was a blast. I met James Johan. We had a great conversation late Saturday night, early Sunday. Had a, very, very great comic. Very, very wonderful person. And I may reach out to him as far as maybe trying to get some weekends in the Kansas City, Missouri area, as I try to work and expand my comedic reach. I'm now in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Wichita, Kansas. And hopefully more on the way. I will keep trying to send my avails as often as I can to keep this going. Thanks again for listening. I appreciate all of your listens, all your reviews. If you like what you hear, leave a 5-star review. Greatly appreciated. Also, feedback at somefearfans@gmail.com. I will leave you with that. Next week, we'll have another guest. It may be Clarence Gleaton. It may be somebody else. But thanks for listening to the Sum of All Fears podcast. And now some thank yous for the folks that make this show possible. Thanks to Barry Whitewater for my art and graphics. You can follow him on Instagram at bwhiteh2o. Get it? H2O, like water. You can also follow him on Facebook, Music. A huge thank you to Gunnar Olsen for the wonderful music provided for this podcast. You can follow him on Instagram at gunbuns, that's GUNBUNS, as well as his website, gunnarolsen.net. Check out some of the samples that he has recorded. They're amazing. He's an amazing percussionist. If you want to follow the show, we've got a Facebook group, Some of All Fears. Instagram, Twitter, you can find us at Some Fear Fans. If you have some feedback for the show, email me at somefearfans, SOMEFEARFANS @gmail.com. I'll be happy to take those into consideration. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, email me at somefearfans@gmail.com. We can try to iron out some details and get that settled in. Give us some feedback if on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. It makes the show bigger, and it's not going anywhere. I'm going to record as many shows as I possibly can. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at Ryan Perio. It's RyanPerrio on all social media platforms. You can follow me there, and you can check me out at ryanperio.com, my website. I'll try to list upcoming shows there as well. It's been kind of spotty because as soon as I set it up, that's when the pandemic happened. And everything's kind of just in a holding pattern. Thanks again for listening to the Sum of All Fears podcast. Next week, we'll have another guest with another fear. Thanks for listening.